Saying y'all really don't want me there, right? A lot of it, municipal stuff. But like Ainer has 4 policemen.
It's also 4 o'clock. I welcome everyone. It's 4 o'clock on April 19th, 2021 for this meeting of the Conway City Council that I hereby call to order. I am in the absence of Timmy Tyner from the Rock Church. Council member William Goldfinch has agreed to do our invocation and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. City, conduct our business, we ask that you be with all of us. Keep us genuine to who we are. Give us smooth, or give us the strength, courage to be the people you designed us to be. Speak through your word in this community. All of us, we ask you here. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much, Mr. Goldfinch. Madam Clerk, have we satisfied the Freedom of Information Act requirements?
We have. Yes.
Thank you so much. Item 3 is approval of the agenda. Is there a motion? Mr. Hammond. Thank you, sir. Mr. Jordan? Second. We have a properly seconded motion to approve the agenda as it is set forth. All in favor, if you would show your right hand, please. Motion carries unanimously. And now relative to the consent agenda, is there a motion? Mr. White?
Yeah, move that we accept the consent agenda.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second? Mr. Hubbard? We have a properly seconded motion to also approve the consent agenda. All in favor with a show of hands, please. Motion carries unanimously again. Item 5 is public input. This is an opportunity for anyone to approach this council with matters that are important to them. Is there anyone present today who is here to speak in public input? Awesome. Okay, well, this is the opportunity. Would you like to speak? Wonderful, wonderful. Awesome. Is there a spokesperson? A spokesperson? Well, the invitation is open for any one of you or all of you individually. If you would please begin with your name and address. And also your input is limited to 5 minutes. There's a monitor. For you. Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much.
All right, I'm Sudie Thomas, 2513 Graham Road in Conway. I'm a player and a mother and an aunt of junior tennis players. I used to play USTA organized team tennis, but have not played since the Riverfront courts flooded. Many of the adults that I used to play with now drive over to other places for league tennis at several clubs at the beach. Those of us who are not retired and who have young children, we're not able to do that. Tennis is great for exercise and using your brain, and it's something any age person can play. So the city has supported junior players by facilitating clinics and lessons at College Park. This is great, and I wholeheartedly support it. My son plays, my nephew plays, several of my friends' kids play. These kids may go on to play high school, maybe even college. Many of them are regularly representing Conway in tournaments all over the Southeast. Tennis keeps them active, out of trouble, and off their devices, and they're developing skills they're going to use their whole lives. So, as y'all know, we have 6 courts in Conway, 4 at Collins Park and 2 at Smith Jones. I've started to play with a few women that are here tonight. We have to plan around the kids' clinics in the afternoons. And sometimes we go to Smith Jones. And Smith Jones, I mean, it's fine. They have droopy nets, cracks, and weeds, so we try not to trip and hurt ourselves out there. And don't get me wrong, we don't want to impact the kids' tennis lessons because I totally support that. But we think the city needs additional courts to accommodate more players. We do not advocate for rebuilding at the riverfront due to the likelihood of more flooding. But there are lots of options. I'm going to mention some, and I think some of these have been kicked around, and there might be more. So 1 or 2 more courts could be built at Collins Park. Build a tennis complex at the rec center. Ashley Smith says he has a spot for 6 courts and a building, which sounds excellent. build a tennis complex or more courts at Smith Jones. And I think there is a commission for Smith Jones, maybe get them involved. Apply for grants and potentially purchase land for courts and many other recreational needs like pickleball, disc golf, basketball, an old new pool. And y'all know how I feel about the country club land and how great that would be for something like that. Or even better, a combination of several more court locations, some open all the time to the public and some that can be reserved to accommodate league tennis and tournaments, like for a membership situation. So for USTA leagues, 5 courts are needed to be reserved several days a week. So that would be your membership situation. And for tournaments, they need to be built at certain specifications. And we pointed out in the past that other cities have tournaments annually, several tournaments annually, and this brings families to their cities for the weekend. And this happens in Myrtle Beach, Litchfield, Florence, Camden, Mount Pleasant, just to name a few. Conway could do this in the future. And I think, and y'all know I've written y'all this before, but I'm willing to assist in grant funding pursuits. So if y'all could let me know how, I'd be happy to start writing some kind of grants, or filling out grant forms. I just kind of need, y'all need to be the hosts for that or whatever. Tennis does not have to be an expensive sport. If you have a public court, balls, and a racket. Some of us have been donating our old rackets to, and they have them at Collins Park. So junior players that don't have a racket can start, they can borrow them. But for now, I guess, first things first is we would appreciate it if the courts at Smith Jones were updated and maintained. We just wanted y'all to know that we're still out here and our skills are rusty and we're out of shape, and we would love to have a place to play more tennis. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Thomas. What I intended to say before you began is, no, you don't have to stay, is that public input is not interactive, but please know that you're being heard. I'm going to ask the city administrator at the end of the final remarks relative to tennis that he tell you a little bit about what our plans are. Please come forward.
I'm not quite as organized with a paper, but I'll keep it short.
Just your name and address first, please.
Sally Walborn. I live on 305 Country Club Drive in Conway. And my perspective is just that as an adult here, there's no sport or athletic, anything for me to do here unless I go to the gym. Okay, that's the only outlet I have. I went to my son-in-law's softball game the other night. The kids I see constantly at the tennis courts. Like Cindy said, we tried to go and play there the other night. We get all ready, we get set, we go down there. The kids have got it for the next couple hours. So we drive out to Smith Jones. It's horrible. The courts are, like she says, there's grass coming up, everything, sagging nets. And I just, I feel like the wicked stepchild. It's like, we went from these beautiful clay courts. We were just blessed with those for so many years. I am just your average. I work all day. I can only play like in the evenings and on the weekends. And that was just totally taken away. So I cannot go down, and the traffic now on 501 is even worse. I think most of the rest of the world has moved to our area in the last year. So I don't even want to try to go down, not to mention the cost to belong to Prestwick or any of those. I can't afford that. So I just want some courts. I look across the street and the golf course is gone, and my tennis courts are gone. And what is there for adults that want to have a sport? This town is it's so beautiful, so vibrant. You've done so much beautification, but when I see, Conway Tennis Center and those little courts that are sitting there, and that's the tennis center now, that makes me just angry, when I see what's been done around the area. And I just think, with people moving down here and over here and up here, I just think they're looking for something like that. So I really think we need tennis courts back. We need to look at doing this again in Conway, because it was thriving at one time and it was just taken away. And it's just frustrating. Thank you.
Thank you. And I need you to know that we don't wish 501 on anybody. Ma'am, would you like to speak as well? Okay, all right. And you, sir? Okay, of course.
Forrest Days from 1609 Parkview Road. And yes, my sister dragged me here today. I'm her brother. I just want to thank y'all and whoever's responsible for the junior program at Collins Park. I don't know if y'all know, but there's a guy named Poon that started about 5 years ago from Sri Lanka. And I think he's really good. And he implements other Coastal Carolina University women from the tennis team to help teach. And he currently has Jessie from Australia, Ira from the Ukraine, and Christina from the Czech Republic, which I think they're all very qualified and good and very diversified. But and the program has been very successful. My son started about 5 years ago with it, and he is currently ranked number 3 in the state in the boys 12s. And others are even more successful. There's Ian Royce, who's number 1 in the boys state in the 10s now, and Emery Combs is number 1 in the state in the girls 10s. And as you all probably know, the Conway High School girls tennis team has been really successful in the past few years because of the junior program at Collins Park. My son is going into the 7th grade next year, and Conway High School has no tennis team now, and we're just jealous of the girls' tennis team. But we want to get the boys going to hopefully be as successful as the girls. But so we just hope y'all continue the program. And I've heard rumors, I don't know if it's true, but the 2 new courts at Collins Park sound great. I said thank you.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else to speak specifically on tennis courts? You may.
All these children that are playing, and where are they all play as they get college age and above? There's not enough room there to sustain all these young players that are coming up.
Thank you so much. Mr. Emmerich,
Sir.
could you give a bit of an update, please?
Absolutely. So we have funding set aside for future tennis courts using the FEMA grant funds that have been pledged from Hurricane Florence. There are some projects that have to take place first before we can utilize those funds, which is why nothing's happened. The lift station at the marina is currently in the pre-construction phase of completion. When it is completed, is my understanding that we then will be able to get the clearance to be able to start doing the planning work for the future tennis courts. We've looked at a couple different locations, including Collins Park, including the rec center. Before any finalization of those plans are done, it'll come back to council for approval. And we will look at where we can get the biggest bang for the buck as far as the most number of courts and the best situation as we can. There is some room at Collins Park to add more courts. We'll have to do some engineering to determine how much room there is. There's also been a request for pickleball courts, so we need to look at both facilities at the same time. As you know, there were 2 pickleball courts at Collins Park that when the tennis center flooded, we took those pickleball courts out and restored it back to a tennis court. So there are no outdoor pickleball courts in the city right now, something that we've, again, had demand for. So all those things will be coming. We have funding pledged through FEMA. And I say that with a little bit of air quotes around it simply because we've not gotten any money from Hurricane Florence yet from FEMA, even though we're obligated several $1 million at this point. So we have the ability to do those projects and get reimbursed. The timetable on reimbursement is the question mark, but we still have that in the works and still in the planning stage. It just is not ripe yet to be able to proceed.
I'll ask just one question. I think it's one of the elephants in the room. While we're waiting for the progression of FEMA funding and our plans to become materialized, is there an opportunity to do some improvement to the existing courts at Smith Jones?
Yes, absolutely. They were resurfaced in 2017. And for whatever reason, they are not in very good shape right now. They should have lasted longer. I know that Collins Park has been resurfaced in one time in the intervening. So we do need to do some work at the ones at Smith Jones Park. And I've actually gotten a text here from our Parks and Rec director that he'll be out there and we'll get something worked on soon.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Is there anyone present for any other public input? There seems to be no one. Mr. Goldfinch. Thank you, Mr. White.
Second.
A properly seconded motion to close public input at this time. All in favor with a show of hands, please. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you so much. Bye, ladies and gentlemen. Item 6 is our special presentations. Employee of the Month, Public Safety for March 2021. Chief Long, so good to see you.
Our selection for public safety for the electrical warrants is Officer Michael Lyon. Michael comes to us with a total now of about 5 years of experience. He's been with the city council for about 6 months. But in his time here, he has really done a fantastic job. We just pulled a little bit of numbers from what he did for the last month. He has been very proactive and has seen a number of weapons off the streets. And just in 1 month, he got 2 guns. And I know for the whole year, it's probably closer to 8 or 10 that he has seen in various investigations. Also, every variety of drugs, marijuana, cocaine, crack cocaine, heroin, pills. He has been involved in seizures of those. And just for the 1 month, also had over $2,000 in cash seizures, which we believe to be related to drug proceeds. And for those activities of promoting public safety by keeping guns off the street and also combating that drug traffic that we have going on, he was our employee of the month of March, and he was also given 8 hours of vacation.
Wonderful. Chief, would you be so kind as to spell his last name, please? Thank you. Thank you so much. And congratulations to our new officer. We're very pleased to have you. Item B is a request to rezone a total of approximately 88 acres of property located along 501 and Midland Parkway, PIN 338-00000011, from City of Conway Institutional to City of Conway Medium Density Residential, R2, consisting of 62 and 3/4 acres. High Density Residential, R3, consisting of almost 18 acres. Almost 6 acres to Highway Commercial, and PIN 33705020005, consisting of approximately 1 3/4 acres from City of Conway Low Density Residential, R1, to Highway Commercial. Ms. Hyman.
Yes, this is a request. This parcel is currently zoned institutional, but they would like to develop it with commercial along the road frontage on Highway 501 and a multifamily in the center portion. It'll be parceled out into three different properties, and in the rear, single family residential. And there's a proposed sketch plan in the PowerPoint as well, but this is still going through TRC review, so it is nowhere near complete, but it is the conceptual plan that staff is reviewing.
Thank you. And today, this is just for our review and for questions.
Exactly.
and answers.
The agent and engineer will be present for the public hearing at the next meeting. This is just to give you first glance, time to review it.
Thank you. Now is a good time for comments or questions from members of the council, should you have any.
And this is sort of in the center of a lot of development coming into Conway. Some pre-approved plans, some that are on the books now. So we're making sure, staff's making sure that this development will cooperate with the adjacent properties as well. So that's something we're keeping a close eye on.
While others are thinking, one of the things that comes to mind is that our comprehensive plan's future use has been for institutional and conservation preservation, while generally this is very different from what our plans had been. And I understand that plans change.
They do.
But I think my bigger concern is we're looking at 80 plus acres of residential area,
Right.
141 homes,
Right.
144 units of apartments,
Correct.
over 285 housing units, multiplied by, I don't know, 4.3 or whatever. We're talking well over 1,000 people. And one of the thoughts that comes to mind is that I think that's going to make this a neighborhood. One of the concerns is the 6 acres being broadened in terms of what can actually sit in a specific zone, comparing institutional to highway commercial and considering move up from R1 to highway commercial.
Right.
Just, I don't just know how that fits so well together.
Sure, and that R1 is that small little piece. It's and it's existing home now, but it's actually also owned by the church. So I think the idea is to demolish that home and combine it in with the commercial adjacent to it. So that's what that
Are the
piece
properties
is.
on either side highway commercial?
Yes.
Okay,
Well, one
good.
is the purple-ish color.
And on the other side, what
Oh,
is
no,
the
I'm
zoning?
wrong. I'm wrong. The purple is, I can't see that from here. That's the Pepsi plant is the purple. And then to the right of that, the large piece of red, that's I call it the old Walmart. It's where the Roses is now, in Planet Fitness,
And how is that zoned?
highway commercial.
It is.
Mhm.
So what we're talking about is that little gray piece.
It's the little, the gray piece is Carson's Ferry Plan Development that's adjacent to it. If you could see that to the left, that's Carson's Ferry. And then the sort of mustard, dark, orangey yellow, that is Rivertown Row. And then to the left of that is Tiger Grand. That gives you a little bit of an idea. And then the red that I pointed out, which is the Roses, that brown parcel to the north is the townhome community that came before you at the last meeting.
I really don't think I'm looking at the right place. I'm going to try to get a
Sure.
little bit closer view. Give me 1 minute, please. In the interim, we're certainly open to other comments or questions.
And this is exactly why we bring it to workshop, so that we gives city council time to take a look at it and ask questions.
Yes, Mr. Hyman.
Yeah.
We've got on the maps of, I guess that's Rivertown Road, Tiger Grand, those streets kind of
Yes.
end in this property. But
Yes.
based on their design, it doesn't appear they're using those roads there.
They are not, but that was one of staff's comments back to them that they needed to connect. This was the initial submission, but we've made them aware that they'll have to connect. And that's the whole reason those roads were designed that way, so that if there was future development, they would eventually connect. But yeah, that's a great question.
Ms. Hyman, I can see much better now that I've got it on my own iPad. So the purple,
That's actually industrial. I was wrong. The
It's
red is
industrial.
highway commercial. The purple is industrial.
right?
Mhm.
And the blue and the beige are what is proposed for highway commercial?
The blue, yes, the two small parcels along Highway 501, if you can see those, those are proposed for highway commercial, which is consistent with the area around it for highway commercial along Highway 501. And then the middle piece of this proposed rezoning is for R2, which is the mustardy, orangey yellow color. And then the R3, which would be the triangular piece in the back that's proposing the rezoning, that's the brown. So you can see it's consistent with the surrounding zonings.
So except for the required buffer,
Yes.
we would have multifamily backed up against highway commercial.
Correct. Correct.
Which typically is a good transition between
Yes.
multifamily and single family.
Right.
Multifamily is the more dense use, which is a more commercial user. So backing it up to a commercial use is a better way to buffer a single family neighborhood.
It's a good transition.
And Mayor, you also mentioned that one property is zoned residential on 501. That would not be an appropriate zoning today for 501 frontage. It's not a safe place to have a driveway for access and for a home.
Right.
And we would discourage single family homes from locating on 501.
I think that was an answer to my question as opposed to me making a comment about it being residential. I didn't really realize that, but I understand your point. Mr. Goldfinch?
You go back to the other pictures.
Yeah.
The house
Mhm.
that's there, its own, I guess it's got its own tax map.
It does, but it's owned by the church also.
It's all about the church.
Correct.
That would go from commercial to R1, but if you look on like the map, it is buffered by that big old lake.
Yes.
Okay, yes, yes.
So you can't see that on there, but if you look at
That,
the map like this,
that would make me view it differently.
that's the lake.
Yes. Exactly where that is.
Yeah,
Yes,
right
thank
by
you.
the old
Thank you.
Fats Cafe. That big lake right by
Mhm,
Fats.
mhm.
So your concern was that highway commercial up against Carson's Ferry? Is that what
Yes,
your concern? I see now.
yes.
Yeah. And Mr. Goldfinch is right. There will be a buffer of that pond.
Mr. Hyman?
I know that some of the surrounding areas, there's proposed subdivisions and
Yes.
some engineering struggles with that.
Yes.
And the end of the pond that we
Yes.
talked about. I know it's kind of early for that, but I'm assuming that it's something staff is.
It is. I actually printed out our comments so that I would have them in front of me. No, I knew it would be a question and I wanted to be prepared. Our Public Works Department said, in our comments back, there are known flooding issues downstream. A downstream analysis will be required. And then our Building and Flood Department also made it clear that a hydrology and hydraulic study will have to be done also. So it is something that staff is acutely aware of and we'll make sure that it meets all the requirements. So this is something that will require a lot of study. Yes.
Anyone else? Questions or comments? There being none, I believe we're done with this issue. We'll move
Thank
forward
you.
to that follows. Item C, discussion of possible amendments to Article 2, definitions, Article 4, use tables, and Article 5, specific use regulations of the Unified Development Ordinance regarding commercial short-term rentals. Ms. Hyman.
Yes. After staff has received some interest from a developer, this is a discussion on a proposed amendment to allow short-term rentals in the downtown area of Conway. According to this developer, people are becoming more and more interested in having a different experience rather than staying in a cookie cutter hotel that you see across the country that could be anywhere. Small towns are becoming more of a draw, and the folks want to stay close to the town centers where they can be close to some of the amenities. Public's relying more on technology to find where they want to stay, to book where they want to stay, to pay for their stay, to open the key code to where they're going to stay. So apparently the industry is changing quite a bit. With that, our UDO currently allows hotels and motels downtown, but it also allows multifamily, but these short-term rentals aren't currently addressed at all per our ordinance. So this is an amendment to add it as an allowed use. These are some photos of the new lofts above the brewery in Myrtle Beach. And the developer says that the proposed ones in Conway will be similar in finish and look. So he kindly sent me these photos so we could present them to you tonight also. But the proposed amendment is to allow these short-term rentals in Central Business District, Core Commercial, and the Waccamaw Riverfront districts. Add a definition of these and also add them as an allowed use. And another thing that we have added as a proposed amendment, right now the ordinance requires that at least 75% of the frontage along the downtown is something other than residential. That can hinder some developments. So the idea is to change that to not 75%, but just say that the depth of that retail to keep the vibrancy has to match the width. So that can give developers a little more leeway on what they can provide in the back. So you'd still have that open storefront to keep that vibrancy of the downtown, but you'd have a little more leeway in the back to develop apartments or short-term rentals. But I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. I know that was a mouthful.
That would have also not done well with the tendency to have upper floor housing.
Right. And the way our ordinance is now, they have to be on the upper floor or just that last 25%, and that's it. So this is a way to maintain the vibrancy, but allow that as well.
Questions or comments? I think you get a preliminary nod in that direction. We'll move forward then. Item 7, public hearing and first reading. Public hearing and first reading of ordinance ZA 2021-0503A, an ordinance to amend the Conway Comprehensive Plan by replacing the transportation element in its entirety. Ms. Hux.
All right. In accordance with the Local Government Comprehensive Planning Enabling Act, which retains the comprehensive plan as the essential first step in the planning process, city staff has been working to update all the elements within the city's comprehensive plan over the last few years. The comprehensive plan, including all of the elements within the plan, must be updated at least every 10 years. Previous elements of the comp plan that have been updated over the last few years include population, housing, cultural resources, natural resources, economic development, community facilities, land use, and priority investment. The transportation element of the city's comprehensive plan considers all elements of a transportation network, including major road improvements, new road construction, transit projects, pedestrian and bicycle projects, and other elements of a transportation network. So over the past year, city staff from planning, the police department, and public works worked together to draft the updated element. Staff sought input and review from several outside sources, including Horry County Planning and Zoning, South Carolina Department of Transportation, the Grand Strand Area Transportation Study, known as GSATS, Coast RTA, RJ Corman, the Conway Chamber of Commerce, Coastal Carolina University's Bicycle Advisory Council. Staff also relied on past findings from independent consultants. The input staff received from these sources were incorporated into the updated element, and a link to the element has also been available on the city's website. Planning Commission reviewed the transportation element at their February and March meetings and held a public hearing at their April 1st meeting, where they also recommended approval. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Since there seems to be nothing burning, I'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone present who is here to speak on the transportation plan update? With no one present, I will entertain a motion. Mr. White?
I'm here to close the public hearing.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second? Mr. Hyman? Probably seconded motion to close the public hearing at this time. All in favor with a show of hands, please. Motion carries unanimously. Ms. Hyman, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just didn't see anything coming forward. If I missed the mark there, does anybody have any questions or comments before we call the question? There seem to be none. So this is first reading of this ordinance. All in favor of the approval of that? I was making the motion for them. I'd be glad. Thank you, sir. We have properly seconded motion to approve first reading of this ordinance. All in favor with a show of hands, please. Motion carries unanimously. I was just kind of moving right along, Mr. Emmerich.
I won't begrudge you for that.
Thank you so much. Item 8 is the administrator's report.
Well, it's nice to be back in this building. It feels a little weird to have a meeting in this room. I a little antsy today all day. It was weird. But I'm really grateful we're back in here and hopefully things can continue to progress this way. The mural in Teal Alley is completed. If you've not seen it, it is amazing. We are now working to prepare the walkway. And many of you have heard that we got some teal turf donated from CCU. We rolled it out today and we hit some hiccups. So we're trying to get over those. It looks amazing, but it doesn't quite fit the space as well as we hope. So we're making some changes right now. If you get by there and see staff in there, we're removing the center section of brick and concrete from the alleyway entirely, and we'll lay the turf in the middle and put some sod in to buffer the edges. So if we ever are able to get additional teal turf, we can remove the whole thing and put new teal turf in again. But it looks amazing in the space. If you've not seen it, you need to. The ribbon cutting for the alley is May 5th at 6 p.m. Again, this is a coastal project with coastal students participating in it primarily, with many seniors on the team that has worked on it. So we want to make sure that we're able to include them in the proceedings, which means we have to do it before that weekend of May 7th, 8th, 9th, because that's graduation for Coastal. So that's why we're doing it on May 5th. If we had more time, we certainly would have availed ourselves of it, but we want to be able to include them in the celebration. Wanted to make sure you were aware that the town clock in front of City Hall has a few rotten boards that we're aware of, and we have a plan to address that. It is on Daryl's calendar to work on. It just is several projects down the road for priority, but it will be one of those things that we address as soon as we can. Family Day at the Billy Gardner Complex is May 1st. This is a chance for you all to throw out a first pitch or make that first kick in soccer. And Councilman Goldfinch, I was able to get you a spot on a roster as a keeper if you want to play keeper. We'll get you in there for the day. Oh, darn it. Maybe we can make a concession for you later in the season. All right.
Can you say more about what being a keeper is?
It's the goalie.
Oh,
He
okay.
has a history of playing keeper with little kids in a soccer complex. Yes. I tried to back up. It was out of my mouth before I thought about what I was saying. All right.
Sounds so creepy.
All right. This Saturday is a Keep Conway Beautiful cleanup day. Signups are in Riverfront Park beginning at 8:30. And this is the third organized cleanup as part of Keep Conway Beautiful this month, in the last 30 days. We take it very seriously. We pick up trash regularly, and we do these organized events as often as we can. So if you're interested in participating, please join us Saturday at 8:30. There are several things going on this Saturday at 8:30. I'm going to skip around on my list here and hopefully don't lose my spot. There is also a kids fishing derby at the Riverfront on Saturday with trophies for the biggest, smallest, and most fish caught. And there is also a prescription drug take back event at Walgreens at 16th and Church that the Conway Police Department is participating in from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. We are working on an emergency ops training operation on May 4th to prepare for this summer's hurricane season. Each year, our fire chief and emergency management director add twists to that to make sure that we're on our toes and prepared for anything. So we're looking forward to May 4th to be able to get ready for this season. Municipal Association's annual meeting will be in Hilton Head this year. Again, if you plan to attend, please let our clerk, Barbara Tessier, know as soon as you can. The dates are July 21st through 25th. And as you all know, we earned an achievement award from MASC this year for our outstanding playground builds in 2020. And they will be in town on the 27th to film our award video at Sherwood Park, Ladybug Park, and Riverfront Playground. So we're very excited about being able to share our successes with MASC. A reminder for you also, the first reading of the budget will be on May 17th, second reading on June 7th. We received word from Grand Strand Water and Sewer that the wholesale water rates will increase by 5 cents per 1,000 gallons beginning in July of this year and another 5 cents in July of next year. Sewer rates will increase by 7 cents in July and 5 cents in July of 2022. Last week, I met with members of Tom Rice's staff and representatives of Marlborough County and Bennettsville to discuss the successes and challenges of our FEMA buyout program. We're still working on a few more homes. For the most part, we've wrapped it up. I think there's 2 or 3 more that are still in the works that we're trying to wrap up. But at this point, we've purchased 41 properties totaling almost $4.5 million. And that's my report, but I do have 2 department head reports as well from James Fraser Friday and from Lynn Smith. If there's any questions for me, I'd be happy to take them. Otherwise, I'll turn it over. Oh, and Sam Graves, there he is. All right, very good. Sam's here as well. All right, James, I think you're up first.
Mr. Fraser Friday.
Mayor, council, it's good to be back in the old digs. Vehicle maintenance, they've been kind of busy last month. They had 193 pieces of equipment or vehicles they worked on. Being short staffed, that was quite a feat. Utilities worked real hard, knocked solid waste out of the number 1 position last month. So we had 43 and they came in second at 38 work orders. We are shorthanded in the garage. We hired a new superintendent, Rock Raven. he started about 2 weeks ago, making all kind of changes. Anyway, we've also made an offer to another mechanic that hopefully we'll be starting soon. So anyway, we're still one short. You got any friends that likes to work on equipment? Give my number. So and utilities, we've had so far this year 2,120 work order requests to come out and for different problems at the houses. Last month we responded to 25 water leaks, repaired or installed 2 new hydrants. And let's see, we had sewer block, 55 sewer blocks, and upgraded 83 water meters so far this year. And red so far almost 200,000 water meters. So, but and as far as staff, we've made an offer. We had one opening, we made an offer and they accepted. So we'll be bringing a work order, a trades worker on with us in a couple of weeks. So everything's going good.
Awesome. Are there any questions for Mr. Frazier? Well, thank you for your update and thank you for your hard work. And welcome to you, Mr. Rabin. Certainly glad to have you as a part of this family. I'm sure, thank you. I'm sure we'll be better because you're here. Thank you so much. Now we'll hear from our judge, Graves.
Mayor, members of council, thank you for having me up here today. Like Ms. Thomas, that spoke of public input, I'm here to talk about the courts, but slightly different than she had in mind. As you recall, Jane Mackey resigned from the court on January the 25th, and we miss her. Court was closed from January 6th to March 10th of this year. That's 8 sessions or 8 terms of court. And when court closes, much of the normal financial activity, and of course, a lot of the justice that's being handed out, it slows greatly. We weren't completely out of business, but there weren't any public hearings that went on. Of course, law enforcement, the chief and his team continue to make cases. And cases were moved to later dates. In Conway, police department assigned later dates when they were issuing tickets. So we managed to smooth the work as it was accumulating. But there was, and there is somewhat of a numerical backlog of cases. However, processing of these numbers are in no way alarming, and they have not been unmanageable since court has resumed. Those at City Hall, I'm sure have noticed more traffic on Wednesdays since we've started back, and the increased numbers should continue through May as we have over 200 cases currently scheduled for May 26th. And there's rises for dates in between there as well. And although City Hall is open for business, the court still operates under COVID restrictions that are put in place by court administration. Defendants in the courtroom are screened for symptoms in the back parking lot there, and before they're allowed to enter, and then other safety protocols are required for everyone that participates in a court function. City Attorney John Long is doing a great job. He's working cases that are designated for jury trials, and the court is processing those resolutions. The court has set dates for a new livability court. Typically, the court will be held on the second Monday of each month. The purpose is to give building code officials a chance to present their cases for violations where not typical circumstances that we hear on Wednesdays. And the first session is scheduled for May the 10th, 2021, and of course, you're welcome to attend. Please note that the authorities have mandated that defendants are entitled to a bond hearing within 24 hours of arrest. As such, Judge Hendrick, myself, and the court staff are present to fulfill this and other requirements, whether it's a weekend, a city holiday, or a national religious holiday. We're always here. We're pleased to answer any questions that you may have.
We want to thank you also for a fine job keeping things moving despite those challenges that present themselves. We're very proud that things are going as well as they are. Thank you and your staff. Now at that portion of this meeting where oh no, we've got another. I'm so sorry then, Smith. I wouldn't have done that for anything. Welcome, Ms. Smith.
Well, it's very nice to be here with you tonight, back in the environment, back to some type of normalcy. In April of 2021, the employee flyer was child help. That was information for immunizations and well visits for children that went out to all employees that are in our BSNA software system. As Adam touched on just a little bit, our employee event this month is the Great American Cleanup Day, which is scheduled for this Saturday. Currently, we have 55 employees signed up, and they are still coming in. They have a deadline of Wednesday, so I expect to have even more. I've got several departments I haven't heard from yet, but so far we have 55 signed up for that. 8:30 will be sign up, and then the cleanup will be from 9 to 12. And from what I understand, Ken Sin will be there afterwards for lunch. We have 6 new hires. Yeah, anybody wants to be around when Ken Sin's cooking, that's right. We have 6 new hires. That was a recreation grounds and maintenance technician, a summer grounds and maintenance technician, a police community service officer, a police officer, a mechanic, a part-time lifeguard, and a part-time fitness associate. We currently have one on the books that is getting ready to retire, and that is Susan Hugs in Public Works. We have found a replacement for Susan. Susan's last day will be April 30th, and the new hire will start on April 26th. So they'll have about a week with Susan before she leaves. We have 3 separations. It was a firefighter, a part-time fitness associate, and a part-time membership associate. Had 2 workers' comp claims, and they were both from the police department. We have 1 FMLA that is active, and that is a recreation employee. We currently have 7 job postings, and that is a solid waste operator 1, an automotive mechanic, a building maintenance technician, community service class 3, a part-time lifeguard, a part-time membership associate, and a summer camp counselors. We're getting ready for our summer workers, and we're advertising for those currently. We have 15 open positions at this time, with that being 1 police corporal, 5 police officers, and I've been told by Dale Long that he is currently working on background of 5 applicants that we have received so far. So we're getting very close to filling all of his officer positions. We have 3 community service officers, and we're in the process of background on 2 of those 3. We have 1 police records clerk. From what I understand, we may possibly have an in-house that is interested in that position. We have 1 firefighter open position, and Lee, we have advertised, and Lee is reviewing those applications now. So we hope to start interviews in the process, testing process on that soon. We have 1 building maintenance technician position open, and I actually scheduled an interview for that this afternoon. We have 1 building inspector position open, 1 automotive mechanic, and then there'll be 4 in the automotive mechanic department, and 1 solid waste equipment operator position still remains open. Currently 0 employees out for COVID-related reasons, which is very good. And so far, the employees have been, sharing it. So far, we'll see 33, but they haven't been like last week, I was administration to help out HR 2 days a week when she can. She has time. We are very appreciative of that. She's helping us get things caught up. We've been trying to move from paper to automation for years, and she's helping make that happen. And also, I'm very excited to work with Brooke. She has been great to come on board, just hit the road running. And we're working on several things together to highlight our employees in our department. So that's very exciting for me, because I like to be getting better and highlight our employees. And that's it. She has that question.
When you said what time was lunch?
Well, thank you so much for everything you do, Lynn. Thank you so much. And now we'll hear from our esteemed council members. Who knows? I think I'll start with Mr. Hubbard.
I will defer to Mr. Goldfinch.
Mr. Govitz.
Mayor, I promise the next time I have the privilege to say the indication that I will do a better job. I got to the part right where I was about to bless the food and it choked me up. And so I lost my thought process and it was over. So, but I promise to do better. I've only got one other thing. I want to give a shout out to the Conway Recreation Center, in particular, Mamie and Ashley, for the spring break camp that they did. A friend of mine's daughter attended, and to quote her, she said, you know, my kid came out of her shell that week. And it was just really cool to hear that. And so guys, if you're watching this or listening, whatever you did, keep up the good work. Thank you. That's all I've got.
And if I might say this to you, Mr. Goldfinch, I know you can pray. Otherwise, I wouldn't have asked you. Mr. White?
Yes, ma'am. And I'm going to say this word, intentional. And my reason for saying that is that I wanted to ask us as council people, can y'all not hear me? I'll take it off. As council people and city staff, that we be intentional in trying to replace some people that we are hiring, just so that we can mimic the community that we are serving, if you would. We don't have any, very few, if I can say, African-American staff. And I would love to see some of that being intentionally done better. And other minorities as far as that goes. So I just want to use that word intentional so that we can use it a little bit more in the hiring practices. And the pool at Smith Jones, I'm still going to be fussing about that until it gets done. And I understand we are trying to use the CBDG grant money. Is that the only source of funding that we can use for that project?
It's the only source that we have available.
Okay.
And we'll be enlisting your help and the mayor's help, I think, to help streamline that a little bit.
Okay.
And I'll get with you shortly.
Well, this has been a year plus that swimming pool has been out. And I'm going to say this, and I don't mean to be ugly about it, but if the pool at the not Collins Park,
Fitness
Mill
and
Pond
Recreation
Fitness Center, if something had gone wrong with that pool, it would have been fixed. Yes, you don't have to answer that, but we just want to make sure that we do the same out there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. White. Mr. Hyman.
Mayor, just briefly, I know that the police department had their awards banquet, their annual banquet over the weekend. I was not able to attend, wish I could have, but I do want to just express gratitude for that department. I know those guys. I work with them probably more than most of the council, and I can just say my dealings with our Conway police, they've always they impress me. I'll just put it that way. I deal with other municipalities and their law enforcement officers, and I can say without question, I think we've got the best in the county. So, thank you, Chief. Other than that, I said it last time. This is my favorite time of the year. It's beautiful around Conway. Thank you to the staff and everybody that's worked so hard to make that happen. Other than that, that's it.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Jordan.
It is all you tonight. I'm good.
Well, I probably had forgotten about the awards event, Chief, just because I knew in advance that I could not have been there, been away. But I'm certainly proud of all the work that you and your staff do. I wanted to say generally to anybody who wonders, we are not being callous in our removal of masks, but we made a decision that because we are all fully vaccinated and the requisite amount of time has passed, that based on guidance from the CDC and DHEC, we believe ourselves to be safe to sit in close quarters and go maskless. I just thought it important to say that aloud. I meant to say it earlier. I'm as delighted as anybody to be back home. I still can't conjure a word that describes what was missing, despite the great care and wonderful accommodations that the recreation staff made for us. They did a really fine job, but there's something about city council meetings happening in city council chambers. I'm delighted to be back. And like somebody said earlier, I think it was Lynn Smith, it gives you some semblance of getting back to what we would think of as being normal. Delighted to be here with all of you, and I'm happy that we had a meeting that was shorter than 1 hour. And if all hearts and minds are in one accord, I will entertain a motion from council to adjourn. Mr. Goldfinch.
Mayor, I was just going to comment, CDC released a statistic today, 50.4% of adults have been inoculated, vaccinated.
That is wonderful. And just to piggyback that real quickly, I won't use up the 2 minutes, but a couple of council members mentioned that they had had some good experiences walking into retail establishments and finding that even without a mask ordinance, that people were doing what we believe to be the right thing. That is not always the case. I walked inside a local business through which many people must go in to take out whatever it is they desire to have. And except for the staff, I was the only person among, my guess would be 25, that was wearing a mask. To anybody who might be listening, it's still our responsibility to take care of ourselves and to care enough about others that when you're out in public among people with various stages of being vaccinated, and many of whom have not been vaccinated at all, to wear a mask is still pretty wise to do. And with that, would you also, thank you. Is there a second? Mr. White?
Second.
We have a properly seconded motion to adjourn this meeting of City Council. All in favor with show of hands, please.